What's up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of Define Your Legacy. I'm your host, Theus Elijah McBee, and today's guest is my brother, my A1 since day one, Tony Seldon. What's up, bro? What's up, man? Talk to me.
What's up, bro? What's going on?
I'm chilling, man. Glad to have you here, man. Glad to have you
Yes,
here.
sir, bro. I
I already know
appreciate you
this is
having me.
a powerful episode, man. I'm looking forward to it.
Definitely, bro. Likewise.
Yeah, man. For those of you that don't know, we go way back, way back. I'm talking decades. You know what I'm saying? So,
Decades with an
yeah,
S.
facts with an S, not just one, but decades, plural. You feel me? So for those of you that may not know, Tone, you feel me? You want to just give yourself a little bit of a bio and just let people know who you are?
Yeah, sure. So, my name is Tony Seldon from Bloomfield, Connecticut. Born and raised, attended Western Connecticut State University, where I received my Bachelor's of Arts in Communication Studies. Graduated from high school in 2011 at Northwest Catholic High School. Very proud alum of both institutions, and just trying to do my part to give back to our youth and give back to our community. So, just involved in a couple of different things, and just trying to make my mark and help out however I can, and wherever people see fit for me to be able to make an impact. So that's kind of me in a nutshell, and I'm just excited to continue to do my part.
Facts. Doing your part, talking about impact, and even talking about legacy. So we're gonna jump right in. All right, we're gonna jump right in. The first thing that I want to talk about, first off, Rip, is options. All right.
Let's do it. Let's
So
do it.
you feel me? Options, for those of you that know, I'll let you kind of explain it, but options trading, not just literally choices, everyone, but options trading. So could you tell the people what options and trading options is like?
Sure. So just in its essence, options trading, you essentially make a wager. That you feel that a particular stock will reach a particular price, which we call the strike price, by a particular date. And so you pay a premium for that wager, and you're able to purchase X amount of contracts or bets you want to place on that particular wager. And as the price climbs, your stock, or excuse me, your wager begins to build value, right? And so in turn, you make more money, pretty much, and so your investment begins to grow, and that's what you want. So going that way, making a wager that it will increase in price, we call that a call option. If you want to say that this particular stock will decrease in value, we call that a put. And so the way that I kind of made it work for me in my head when I first got started is I want to call something up and I want to put something down. And that kind of just, made it stick for me when I was able to make my choices and, go about it that way. So that's essentially it, at its essence. There's a lot of intricacies that go within it, that come about, but that's really it. And I'll say that making sure that you do your research on what's happening, not only with the stock, but what's, influencing the stock, what industry it's in, whether it's tech, industrial, whatever the case may be, is key to be able to make, an educated guess is essentially what you're doing, because obviously we never know the behavior of these stocks. Nobody can really tell you what is exactly is going to happen.
Right.
So that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, no one knows what's going to happen tomorrow, right? It's
Right.
reached the idea of investing, but again, no one knows what's going to happen tomorrow. But you use the word wager, right? So would you say that trading options is a form of gambling?
At its essence, it is, because you really don't know what's going to happen, And so, what I will say that it's not so cut and dry as a wager. I just use that term to just kind of really break it down.
Right. I got you.
But you're essentially making a calculated risk or an estimation. Is really what you're doing. It becomes gambling, if you will, if you don't do your due diligence, like we like to call it. So if you don't do your research, if you don't have a clue what's going on, and you just say, blindly, I think this is when it's going to happen, then that is exactly what a bet is. You really have there's no strategy behind it. You just kind of rolling the dice, pun intended or not.
Yeah,
it's kind of what
I got you. And it's crazy though with like puts. I feel like because it's you rooting for the stock to tank. It's like what I'm saying. If the stock is tanking and you cheering, it's like that's really crazy. Like
it is, but it's a very real thing, and it's not even so much that you're rooting for it to go down. It's kind of almost like it's the reality of the situation. Like nothing is ever gonna stay on this upward trajectory with no type of fall point. You know what I mean? Like at some point, it's always going to drop back down. That's just the nature of the market, gravity is going to run its course, literally and figuratively, in this game. So, you kind of have to be ready for, we always talk about buying the dip, and I know we'll get into that. So that's really what you kind of looking for. And it doesn't have to be, so extreme that you think it's going to go from, let's say Nike's at like 150 or whatever, you think it's going to go down to $5. Like, it doesn't have to be that. You can play a put for $5, $1, whatever they offer. You can play it right under the strike. And if it drops and you got enough contracts, you can hit, so it's it doesn't have to be so extreme, but there are cases where it is. You look at GameStop, like it rocketed or what have you, and now before that it was like a $8 stock or whatever it is. So people are saying like, this thing is gonna go back down to that area. So let's do that. And the other part of that is like, and it works kind of it does work in the inverse as well. It's like whenever you are making such an extreme wager, the premium is not as expensive. So it's almost like there's, why not? It's so cheap monetarily to place this call or this put. You might as well, because you never know what can happen. You're very likely that it could fall to you, and so it's like you don't really take much of a hit. So I mean, if you play the other part is the deadlines, right? And so if you wanted to play it for, like, I know for a fact GameStop has a put for January of 2022. If you wanted to play that, for $5 by then, I mean, that's because it's so far out and because it's so extreme, that premium is not going to be, very expensive at all. You can get one contract for, let's say, $20, $30 or something. So you might as well.
So when you say premium, what exactly do you mean?
So the premium is the cost for the particular position that you're taking. So if I say that Nike is going to be $200 tomorrow, there's a particular price that's associated with that particular position that I have to pay to be able to hold stake in that position. And so each strike price has its own premium. And that premium is really set by we as investors or we as traders or what have you. And it's all based on, how much open interest there is, how many, contracts there are outstanding, what have you, and all of these things that go into whether or not the value is going to increase or decrease.
So would you say, or do you have a preference between trading options and just buying regular shares? Because obviously, to let everyone know, you can always do both, right? But do you have a specific preference, and which one, I guess, you favor more?
Yeah, I mean, for me right now, I'm in a space of trying to raise capital, right? And so with that, and I'm also trying to, build capital at a faster rate. And so with that, I would prefer trading. I would prefer trading options because it's literally on a week by week basis. Every deadline for the most part, is every Friday of every month or what have you. It's like once a week pretty much, on a Friday. So there's some that are different. You may have it like every 2 weeks or maybe every 3 or what have you. But for the most part, you'll see them on Fridays. And so, I mean, you're looking at that's a payout every week. And so if you're able to hit and you're able to win your wager or whatever, you'll be able to, build your capital a lot faster than you could, as opposed to just regular investing. And so that's the other part is there's a difference between being an investor and a trader.
Exactly.
And there's a difference in the mindset and the mentality. There's a difference between being an investor and being a trader, and really it's really about your position, your approach, and kind of where you are. So when I first started, I was an investor. I was buying stocks and I was buying shares of stocks and I was holding them. But as life and situations begin to change, you kind of start to, shift your objective and that's kind of, the space that I got into. And, the other part is like being an athlete and being a competitive person in general, like you want to compete, and you want to, and being a trader kind of gives you this, like it kind of pumps your adrenaline a little bit, you gotta be a little bit more active with things. And so that's the other part for me. So that's kind of the space that I'm in right now. But I think it's going to be subjective to the person and to their objective.
Exactly. And that's one thing I stress too, right? Like there's no wrong decision. Like if you want to be a trader, be a trader. If you want to be an investor, be an investor. But they are like completely different, right? Like you have to understand that beforehand though. And that's something that I think is essential for people to kind of know. But another thing about options, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, is that you may not need much to get started / make, I guess, a decent return on your money, right? Like
absolutely not. It really depends on what the premium is.
Mm.
Um, it depends on what the premium is. So you can get a premium for literally $1.
Mm.
You can get a premium for $1. And so with that premium, you'll pay $1 per contract. And the thing with options is that one contract equals 100 shares. So really the other part of this is kind of the main thing. If you're a trader, you're not really so much going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
At least I can't speak for everyone. I don't. With an option, you literally have the option, but not the obligation to purchase 100 shares of this stock at this price,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so if I were to buy, let's say I wanted to get into a position with Nike that I said that Nike was going to be worth $200 a share by Friday. Very extreme. So that premium is going to be very low because it's not very likely to happen.
Mm.
Right. And so that premium, let's say that premium is $5. So with that premium, I've now purchased one contract per $5. And so with that one contract comes the option for me to purchase 100 shares at that price.
Mm.
So at $200. So let's say it goes to 250. The market price is now 250. So everyone that waited has to pay 250. But because I played my position and I got into this call at 200, I can now have the option, but not the obligation,
right,
to buy 100 shares of Nike at $200 as opposed to everyone else at 250 at the market price.
Yeah, it's different.
And that's called exercising your option.
Mm-hmm.
So again, not very common. I mean, I can't speak for everyone, but it's not something that I look to do. But that's another route that you can go to kind of merge the two, between trading and investing. It's a little bit of a loophole, allows you to be able to get something at a lower market price than, or a lower price than what the market price is.
Yeah, I mean, and it's important too. I feel like you touched on it too, like having your own strategy. You know what I'm saying? Like, yep, the whole option, not obligation, is like, that's the beauty of all of this, right? It's like you still are able to choose. You literally have the option to do that. But speaking of options, I know an option or a stock that a lot of people tend to invest in, calls and puts, is Tesla. And, Elon Musk. And, he's a pretty powerful guy, right? So does it ever bother you when, bro starts to tweet some nonsense, whether you're in it or not, the power that someone has to tweet and it changes the entire market? Does that, how does that affect you?
It depends which side you're on. It really does. Like, it's really the only way that I could put it. I think I've seen both. I've seen both sides. I've seen it from the sidelines where it's hurt people. I don't have a position in Tesla now, but I think I did at one point. He said something, it had a negative effect on me.
Okay.
And I don't think it was too great, but it definitely, I saw some red, so that wasn't the best thing. But I mean, it is crazy, so scary, but that's just the world that we live in now, and I think a lot of it is, people are so impressionable now. And the other part of it is just kind of like the instant gratification, and so with that, because you're able to literally turn hundreds into thousands in a matter of seconds by just getting lucky or based off of, what someone else has to say, it kind of deteriorates this whole being knowledgeable aspect and doing the research, and so that's really when you get burned, honestly. I mean, is if you just get into a position and you don't really know why, whether it's an option or whether it's, just buying shares. You don't know why you're in it, or you don't have a strategy, an entrance and an exit strategy, you're putting yourself in a bad place. But I mean, whenever you have anybody that's as influential as he is, you're always going to be susceptible to some sort of effect. And like I said before, it depends what side you're on. If you have a put in Tesla and it's going crazy, and he says, like he said, I don't know if it was last year or some months ago or what have you, I think Tesla's overvalued or overpriced.
Yeah.
I mean,
what are you doing?
I don't know. But if you got a put, yes, please keep on tweeting. You gotta, let's get it going, because it's gonna come right to me. So it really depends on what end of the spectrum you're on, and that's so crazy. It is very crazy.
That's so crazy about puts, bro. Like, you literally are cheering for it to tank. That's nuts. Yeah. Keep going. What?
I mean, it's just kind of like being ahead of it, like you're just, it's bound to drop at some point. Now, how far you want to say it's going to drop is another story, but it's bound to happen. It's bound to happen. Like that's just the nature of the market. Things
Yeah.
stocks are bound to drop and they're bound to rise up again. And
Yeah.
that's just how it works, So
it's a part of the game you play. I mean, it's part of the game you play.
100%.
So even with that, so who would you say put you onto stocks? Like, was it a person? Was it you just kind of learned it online, or just kind of how'd you into that world?
Yeah. So my grandfather actually was the first one that introduced me to the stock market, and it was really indirect. He had a custodial account for me through Bank of America, and so I'm sure we'll talk about this. This is something that we like to talk about. We would get dividend checks every however often they pay out, and I always was wondering, like, what are these, 13 cent, 14 cent, 25 cent, whatever checks that are coming from Bank of America? Like, what is this? And my mom told me, it's like, Poppy did this for you. Like he has shares for you, and this is what comes with it, with particular stocks, what have you. And unfortunately, my grandfather passed before I was at an age to really understand, what's going on, to be able to have this conversation with him. But that was the first exposure that I had to it. And so I always saw the app on the phone, that comes on the iPhone, the stock app or whatever. And I never really knew, what it was or what have you. But once my mother told me what was happening, and that he started that for me, I just kind of went in there and I would look at it, and I added Bank of America to it. I looked up the ticker and added it to the app. And I would just look at it and see what the price was every now and then, and I would tell my mom, like, oh, it's at whatever it was, $20. Oh, it's at $22 or whatever. We would kind of just, but that was really it. I never really got into it any further or what have you. And I think at that point I might have been in high school or whatever. But it wasn't until I got out of college that I really got into it. And it was one of my friends from my first university at Susquehanna University, my man Leonard, and he put me onto it. And since then, I mean, he and I have been rocking with this for, I think this is probably my second or third year. And it's my first year. I think I'll have my first full year of trading in October of this year. I believe that's around the time that I started. And so he wanted me to get into trading options a while ago, kind of when we first started.
Yeah.
But I was, I really wasn't too into it, and the way that he kind of posed it to me, because I didn't understand it, he did. To me, it just sounded like there's just way too much risk, And so I was like, I can't do this. I'm not there yet. I'm not ready, and eventually just took the leap and went about it. And it's been, working out pretty well. But initially when I got in, we were just doing shares. And he was like, yo, just get a couple shares of whatever, we'll look up some things, and see if there's something that you like or whatever. And so the whole thought of, just the phrasing of stock market and what you see on TV, Wolf of Wall Street, and, all of these things on the news or whatever, it just, when you don't have the background knowledge of it, it's almost a little overwhelming. And it's like, this is something that people with money deal with, and I'm not there. So this is not really anything for me. And he told me, he was like, bro, you can there's stocks that are $1. There's stocks that are under $1. And I'm like, there's just no way. There's no, like, full shares of stocks that are not even $1 per. And I'm like, there's no way. He's, I'm telling you, just I'm telling you, bro, just trust me, just look into it. And so the first stock that I ever bought myself was JCPenney. And it's obsolete now, but at the time, a couple of years ago, and in the past anyway, I mean, JCPenney's always been one of the larger department stores, and obviously COVID really, had a terrible impact on them, as it did many other companies, but, they were kind of falling by the wayside and dealing with bankruptcy prior to COVID. But I got in at JCPenney, I think around 75 cents a share or something like that.
Less than $1.
And I bought a bunch of them. I bought a bunch of them, bought like 50 shares or something like that. Just like, why not? And if this thing gets, back on track, hey, we're sitting on something here,
Facts.
We're looking at a very, very strong position. So that was the first stock that I ever got into.
Were you in college when that happened?
No, I was out of college.
Okay.
I was out of college by then. So he and I was a sophomore when he was a freshman, and he was good friends with one of my good friends. So that's how we kind of, built that connection. And, we would go out, would party or whatever. And it wasn't really until after I finished school that I reconnected with him. And I would see the things that he would post, and he was a finance and accounting major and what have you. And, I kind of just reached out to him like, yo, what's going on? And he was happy to hear from me because he had been trying to, put his closer friends on or what have you. And I mean, unfortunately, it's kind of the reality that we live in our community is not really something that's talked about very often, And so, I mean, this is why we appreciate what you're doing, to drive this narrative for us. And so he just told me like, yo, it's not what it seems to be. It's not what people make it out to be. It's not that difficult. Obviously there's a lot of intricacies to it, and there's a lot you got to do, but it doesn't take much to get in, and to just get started. And so once he told me that and I saw it for myself, I was all in. And it's something that I live by now. And I just have various conversations with, obviously you and other people that are of like minds, and we have these conversations, and you'll be surprised how it shifts your mindset. But he was the first one, that directly and more hands-on got me involved with investing and in trading when I finally, decided to go that route as well.
Yeah, and to your point where you mentioned, it doesn't take much to get started. It's funny because I think sometimes, like when we're introduced for the very first time to the stock market or options, some people might be hesitant, right? Because at the end of the day, it's still their money. So it's like,
right.
Even though some people might just know that there's people investing in the stock market and making money, if they don't know how to do it, it's like, all right, I don't, I'm gonna chill, I'm gonna wait.
Right.
But you said, or correct me if I'm wrong, once you started to see, see it more, not just hear about it, but see it on social media and things like that. Is that what would you say, like, kind of piqued your interest in terms of like, all right, I need to, I really need to tap into this game because there's people
I saw
that are in it.
Yeah. I saw someone that I knew making money. I saw someone that I knew not having to do anything to make money. It was passive income. He made one effort and that effort began to multiply, and it began to multiply and multiply and what have you. And I mean, we're all looking to make more money, and that's really the name of the game is how can you build your capital, and how can you stretch your portfolio and do all of these different things. And so I saw someone that I had direct contact to and someone that was willing and wanting to help others. That's the other part is like, how do you broadcast or share with your following what you do? How do you come off? How do people read you? Are you someone that they feel is approachable? Or are you someone who comes off as arrogant? And it's like, oh, I'm the greatest thing ever, get like me or whatever, but nobody feels like they can come to you and ask you for help without you judging them or looking down on them, talking down on them, belittling them, what have you, So I saw someone that I knew that I had a personal connection to that wanted to help, that was approachable, that was knowledgeable, that was going to teach, that was going to guide. And I saw the results, that he was able to attain on his own.
Yeah.
And so I figured, what's the worst that can happen? I can ask him and I can find out what the deal is, and then I can go from there. So it wasn't anything that he wanted, for himself. There was nothing I had to pay him for anything. Like, it's just like, hey, I'm trying to help my people out. Here's what we're gonna do. So,
and shout out to him though, for just passing along the information.
Definitely,
I think sometimes,
definitely,
people think that like the only way to help someone is just give them money. Like
yep.
putting your people on to some, what I'm saying, giving them education, what I'm saying, give them a certain tool that can help change their life and their family's life, what I'm saying, because it passes along, what I'm saying. So
absolutely,
shout out to him for even being willing, and open to helping you with that, because a lot of people aren't like that. To be very clear, that's the sad part,
Yeah.
But I mean, that's life, I guess, even outside the stock market. What I'm saying, but not much you can do. So do you ever feel obligated to put other people on to the stock market? And the reason why I say that, I know we got our group chat between me, you, and Khalid. Shout out to Khalid. Just talking to people that might not know much about the stock market and explaining to them like, yo, I'm saying, who I am. I'm saying, we friends, so I'm someone that you can trust. Like, I'm saying.
Right.
So how do you feel about that in terms of approaching someone and spreading that education?
Yeah, I think it's our duty, to be able to help others, and I think we do not only ourselves, but obviously our community a disservice if we don't. It's like, you're holding out on information, and whether folks decide to charge or not charge or what have you, I mean, that's their business. I know for me, when I first started to learn about this, I said, this is something that I got to share. This is something I have to share. But where I was in a space that I wasn't going to share it for free. I didn't really feel like, I should have to, and
It's
it
still
may have been
time. It's still
selfish or what
time that
have you,
you're.
but
Yeah.
it's like there's things that have to come about, right? Like you said, there's time, there's programs that I gotta, be able to have subscriptions to be able to, put this information together and broadcast and what have you, and Zoom links and all that kind of stuff. So I chose to charge, and I saw value in it, and I thought that it was something that other people would see value in it as well. Now, I wasn't charging, triple digits at
Right.
all, and so I think that's the other part is like, I think people respect the fact that you have an asset. You're not going to give it away for free, but you're also not going to, try to get over on me either. You know what I mean? And so that was the approach that I took. And a lot of people are taking that approach as well. And there's people that kind of go overboard with it, and again, that's their business and whatever they want to do. But I think when you come across something as valuable as investing, it's your duty, especially in our community, like I said, to share that, and so as I got more knowledgeable about, this industry and what it can provide, I felt like I had to share it with my friends. I felt like I had to share it with my family. Um, I would say that the downside to that at times, and it's kind of with anything else, is like your interest may not always be someone else's interest, and so it may not be received the way that you want it to be received, and that's okay. That person or those people or what have you may not be in a space where they're ready to do that at the moment. There's nothing wrong with that, but there's also nothing wrong with you sharing the information, and eventually when people see you do it enough and they see you have, strong results enough, they'll begin to, become more interested. And I think the part for us as a people in our community is that once that happens, once we've reached out and we got to know we're not interested or not right now, what have you, and we go away and we have results and then they come back, we can't shun them.
Yeah.
Like we can't say, I tried to help you out, X amount of time ago, and now you see me doing this, or now you want to, like, no, it can't be that, because then you just turn them off and now you just recreate the same pattern that we have in our community. So I think it's very important that we share it. I think it's very important that it's in our school system, and then it's in our families, and it's something that's taught. I know it's something that I'll be teaching my nephew will be in 8th grade next year, and it's something that I want, which is crazy. Because for us on a personal level, it's very crazy for you to hear that, I'm sure. But it's something that I want him to get into, so that he's in a better position than I am now, when he gets to be 27 like I am, you know what I mean? So I want him to be, because it's something that I wish that I knew at his age. Had I known even in college, when I had a little side job, like even if I knew this as a freshman in college, things would have been a little bit different. You know what I mean? So
That's
you
the
look at just 4
question.
years.
Yeah.
Like 4 years versus 15 years. Like, he and I are 15 years apart. Like he's got an incredible leg up, just because of something that I've taken interest in, and want to learn and hone and teach him. You know what I mean? So he's got that leg up, and he's got a younger brother that he's gonna be able to pass that on, and so then you kind of start to build something, and the foundation is laid, and you can build on top of that. So it's very important, that we reach back and we share this with folks at our age, folks that are older or younger, younger or older, what have you. It really doesn't matter, So I know I had a really nice result with one play that I made. And I told my mom and I told my father, and they were like, all right, you gotta come over here and show us what to do. It's like that's what starts to happen. Folks start to get excited, and they're like, okay, because it's different when it's someone that you're connected to. We see it all the time in movies, see it on TV or whatever. And it's like, well, they can't tell me anything about that. I don't have any connect. But when it's someone that, you have a connection to, it's like, okay, and it began that we're having different conversations now. Like we're having conversations about what's happening in the stock market. We're having conversations about what's happening in the world and how this is going to affect the market, how it's going to affect this industry, that industry, or this company or that, or what have you. And it's really a beautiful thing, to see, and it's just that was probably my best moment,
Yeah.
in my time of doing this, is to be able to see the excitement from my family to want to get into this, and really see what it can provide. So
Yeah, man. And that's very, very real, just because one thing that I just want to stress, and it's so important just for Black people to have the conversation about financial literacy, right? Like just
yeah,
raise awareness, just talk about it, right? Like I would never try and force someone to invest in the stock market, but we have to have that dialogue, right? We have to start talking about it, because we talk about a lot of other things, right? We talk about sports, we talk about relationships, we talk about culture, we talk about politics. Like that has to be somewhere in the agenda in order for us to really, really succeed and change the narrative. You know what I'm saying? And you talk about too, generational wealth. I feel like generational wealth isn't just something that you can pass down, to your children and your grandchildren, but also above, right? Just the idea of passing down education as well, and even going back a little bit more, you talked about time, right? I think it was a 15-year difference between you and Eddie. Like the idea of having that time, that's such a head start.
Exactly.
Like the $1 million question is, imagine if, what I'm saying, for those that have graduated from college, imagine if you had this information back when you were in college. Like imagine.
And it's been here. The crazy part is like it's like a phenom now, right? Like everybody's trading, whether it's in the stock market, whether it's in a foreign exchange market, or what have you. Like now it's super popular, but it's been here this entire time.
Yeah.
Like these markets didn't just pop up. Like all trading options didn't just pop up. So these things have been around. I mean, I guess cryptocurrency is probably the only newish, type of wave. But I mean, even that, like Bitcoin came out in what, like 2015, 16, whatever it was, around that time.
Yeah.
That's probably one of the things that I will probably kick myself over for a while, is not getting in at that time. Like 2016, I'm a grown man out of college with a degree. The fact that I wasn't, and I won't even say like wasn't made aware, because there's no excuse for it, but the fact that I was not knowledgeable about these different means of financial freedom at that age. Like in 2016, I think I was like 22. Like there's no,
what a time.
There's no, like there's no excuse, bro. Like you gotta know.
But the good thing though about that though is that, one, you're still young, you know what I'm saying? And two, you kind of learn your lesson. And now as you look forward to life, it's like, all right, that part is kind of behind me. And so to everyone that heard what you just said about the idea of back in 2016, Bitcoin, should have thought about investing in Bitcoin. Think about how that can change your life now. Not necessarily saying Bitcoin, but the idea of like we all
something
say,
else.
I wish I would have did this back then. I wish I did this and that. Now you have the chance to do that, right? Like
to do that now.
Think about where you're going to be 4 or 5 years, decades from now, whatever. It's like you have the opportunity to change that for yourself, for your family right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to sound like that community college commercial, I think like years ago, where the dude was like, no, do it right now. But like, as you get older, you realize like, that's true. Like literally like take action now. Don't wait. And I know the majority of my audience is probably, I would say like probably under 30 or whatever, but like, don't let your age be the reason why you don't start, right? Like, don't let
you don't,
the sooner you don't want to, the better.
Right. You don't want to get to 40 and be like, I wish I started at 25.
Exactly.
Like, you don't want that, because I really hate that I'm in a space. I'm 27, wish I, saying I would have started at 22, 23 when it was $100 or whatever it was. It's like stuff like that. So, get started now. Even if you just buy one share or a piece of a share or something, just get into the mindset, and just shift your mentality and what you see, on a daily basis. And I want to go back to something that you said about the conversation that we have in our family, because this is a conversation that I've been having recently with my sisters and with my parents, is that regardless of the situation or the circumstance you're in, financially speaking, where your family is, and we are getting to an age where, we're starting to get to that space where we may be bringing children into the world. And so it shouldn't matter what your financial status is, whether you're low, middle, high class, rich, whatever, it shouldn't matter. You still need to have these conversations, and so in my family, I was fortunate enough that my parents, we're doing pretty well. We're a middle class family, what have you. And so because of that, there weren't things that we saw as burdens. We didn't really, there's stories that people have that are, and there's circumstances that people deal with that make the financial world a lot more evident and forward facing for kids. And so they're kind of forced to know, what is this or what is that, or how does this work, or what. We didn't have to deal with that, and so it was in a sense like it wasn't our business, like my parents took care of the finances. That wasn't for us to deal with. Like my parents told us, you don't need to get a job right now. Like you're in high school, you don't need. Your job is to go to school. Your job is to play your sport. Your job is to make sure that you're, a good standing citizen. Like be a good person. That's your job. Do what you're supposed to do. Take care of your responsibilities. Those are your responsibilities. And so the financial aspect of life wasn't made, really relevant to us. We kind of just, and we were fortunate to be in that position.
Right.
But in a sense, it kind of hurt us, and again, this is a conversation that we've been having, and it's like, we wish that we would have had these conversations. We wish that we would have, made you all more aware of what's going on. How do you do this? How do you do that? And so obviously through school, like you learn the basics, how to write a check and what's a checking account, savings account, or whatever. But like we didn't really learn about, building credit. We didn't really learn about, credit scores and debt and these things. And so once you get into the real world, let's say you're done with college, you move out of home or what have you, and now you have to deal with these things. You're learning, but you're learning just on flight. It's like there's no really direction or what have you. There's no prior experience to know how to deal with these situations. So that's another thing. Regardless of what your financial status is for your family, whether it's where you are now, where you will be in the future, have these conversations, like you just said. Have these conversations with your kids, have these conversations with your younger siblings or what have you, and teach them so that you can put them in a better position than maybe you were, when you came out of it. And so, it's like you don't fault anybody for it. We don't look at our parents and say, well, we wish, it's what it is. We were fortunate that we weren't forced to learn these things, But again, it's just kind of one of those things, just like you wish you would have done that, but because we didn't have to, we didn't, and we didn't think about it. And so, but the conversations are imperative that we have.
And the good thing about having conversations about money is that they're free, right? It's like it doesn't cost you anything to talk about it, right? Like you'll gain so much knowledge just by having the conversation. It doesn't even have to be a long conversation. I'm not saying you have to schedule it out, I'm saying, like once a week or whatever. Like just talk about it though. Like it has to be something that you feel is a mandatory thing, because it might spark something, right? And the good thing about our generation though is that we have the internet to use, right? So even if the conversation isn't really happening at the household, right, we still have platforms like YouTube and just social media, podcasts, like everything that allows people to really learn about it. So like just using the internet, man, for everything. Like it's Twitter, just the idea. Like I think what you use social media for speaks volumes too. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Like especially Twitter.
And honestly, social media is so smart now that whatever they're listening. Like we kind of joke about it and say like, our phones are spying on us, what have you. But the phones are listening to you.
Oh, yeah.
When you sign up for all of these apps, these social media apps, whatever, they go through the terms and conditions that none of us ever read. We just hit next and skip and all of that.
I agree. Yeah.
They're asking for permission to, tap into your microphone, all these things. And if you notice, you and I can have this conversation right now, and I can be talking about whatever, and there will be an ad that'll pop up on Instagram about what we just had a conversation about. If I told you I need to buy a new lawnmower, like I'm gonna see something, like I'm gonna see a John Deere when I scroll down Instagram. Like,
technology, so man.
What you talk about, what you search is imperative. And the more you look at these things, the more you search these things, you have these conversations, you'll start to indirectly be exposed, or directly, however you want to look at it, be exposed to these different things. And so, the more that you talk about it, the more you search it, like I said, it's just gonna be put in front of you. You have no choice but to see it.
Yeah.
So your exposure would be, that much better.
And that's I mean, that's the beauty of it all. And you know, and it works both ways, right? If you hang around people that are talking about things that aren't important or just toxic conversations, what do you think is going to happen? You know what I'm saying? And like, and on the flip side, if you hang around people that talk about real estate and stocks, because the thing is with social media, right? People see your stuff, right? Not everyone might interact or engage with your stuff, but people see what you are posting. So the good and the bad. So if you post about real estate, I guarantee you some real estate folks might hit you up. But if you talk bad about like relationships and all that stuff, I guarantee you that same type of energy is what you're going to attract. So it's like you got to be very careful about how you use, you know, social media as a whole. You know what I'm saying? No one is saying don't have fun, but like what you put out into the world is what you're mindful. Like, and it's to me it's really that simple. But you know, so another thing that I wanted to ask and touch on is why do you invest your money? Why do you trade options? Now, before you answer, right, the obvious answer to that is everyone is going to say, well, to make money. But what I want to know is if it's something deeper than just making money, right? Is it, I won't go more into that. I'll just let you answer.
I mean, one of my friends gave me, I was having a conversation with him, and he said that just the same way you have to get up and go to work every day, so does your money.
Oh.
Right. So every dollar has a job, which is the next part of what he said. Every dollar has a job, you know, and so if you just leave your money in your checking account or your savings account or what have you, yeah, sure, it'll always be there for you, but it's always going to be that amount. I mean, you may get your little 2 cents interest or whatever on your savings account, whatever it may be, but it's always, I mean, it's just going to be that. It's just going to be sitting there. And so you'll always be working to get more money. You won't ever be able to have money that just flows to you. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it's like you go out and it's like, let's say you're an agriculturalist or what have you, and you just have land. You don't do anything with it. You just water it. Okay. So you may get some nice grass, but you ain't gonna get no fruits. You ain't gonna get no vegetables. Like you're not sowing any seeds, so you're not gonna get anything else from that. Right. So if we're just going to work every day, yeah, we'll get our check and we'll put some aside to save, but it'll always just be that. There'll be nothing else that comes on top of that. There'll be nothing else that just flows to us from other efforts that we put in, you know? And so for me, it's like my money has to work too. You know, we all like free money. I mean, if we could walk down the street right now and we see some money laying on the ground, like we're gonna go pick it up. You know what I mean? And that is kind of how the stock market works. You know, you put money in and some free money comes back to you. And, you know, best case scenario.
Yeah.
But you know, that's really, you know, that's really what it's about, you know, is being able to have ways to make money without having to exchange your time for it.
So what would you say to people that may be afraid to invest in the stock market? Because like I feel like everyone has been afraid to invest in the stock market at some point, right? As a beginner.
Right.
So what would you say to them?
The only way you put yourself in a bad position is if you just get in for no apparent reason, or you're going off of what someone else says, or you're not doing your own due diligence or what have you, or B, you're compromising yourself by investing money that you cannot afford to lose. And that's really, I mean, I'm sure people could, you know, argue that there's others, but for me, those would be the two main pieces of advice that I would give: is do your own research, know why you want to be in this, and don't put up money that you can't afford to lose. Like I'm not gonna put up money that I know that I'm gonna need to pay my mortgage. I'm not gonna do that. That just doesn't make sense, because you, again, like we said at the beginning, you have no control over what happens. And like I have the other part, and this may be, you know, something that scares folks when they learn more about the market, is that all the market is you and I. That's all it is. It's you and I and someone else and another person, and we are determining the value of this stock. And so if I feel like today this stock ain't worth much and I sell it and you sell it and then they sell it and then they sell it, but this person over here is still holding it, they're going to lose money. And so maybe that's the scary part, you know, is the fact that you can't predict the emotions or the actions of another investor. You can't. And unfortunately, the actions and emotions of another investor impacts the price of that stock.
Of course.
You know, and so that may be part of it, you know. But I mean, if you do those things, or if you don't do those things, you'll be more often than not, you'll be okay. And I think the other part that I didn't mention that's important is the time factor. Like, if you have to be right now, like if you have to turn $100 into $150 or into $1,500, like right now, like within this week or what have you, you're putting some pressure on yourself.
Yeah.
But if you can wait a month, 2 months, a quarter, a year, you are guaranteed, unless you just buy into something that, you know, and again, I shouldn't even say guaranteed, but you're more likely than not to see a return.
Man, so
which means there will be money made on top of the money that you put in, so you will get a profit.
So you mean to tell me, Tom, more than likely, that if you wait, you can make money? You mean to tell me, hold on, because you might just say something crazy. You mean to tell me, bro, if you buy a stock and just hold it, you might make, wow.
If you can wait,
wow.
I'll be tired of waiting.
Ain't that so?
If you just wait, I mean, but that's the hardest part, though. Again, is like, and that's why I say it depends on your objective. Because if you need this money right now, if you need to be right now, if you need to turn X amount of dollars to Y amount of dollars right now, investing is not the way to go. Unless you're going to, you know, somehow just, you know, catch a wave and get out. But even with that, there's another part. Now you got to pay capital gains tax, and now, you know, so you deal with that whole thing as well. So, you know, that's another aspect of it, you know, and that's why I say there's a lot of intricacies that go into investing and trading, you know. And so, but if you have time on your hands and you don't need this right now, then, you know, you will win. There's a very strong likelihood that you will win, but you have to have time. If you don't have time, then, you know, and that's why we say that, you know, time is the most valuable asset, you know, that we can have. It's time.
Because you can't get it back. And to me, that's an even bigger reason why young folk need to invest. You have time on your hands. You have space, I guess, available to mess up, right? Like we saw what happened back in March of 2020, how the market just tanked, right? And there was but it recovered pretty quickly, right? But there were so many people that were on the verge of retirement, and then bam, it just happened. You know what I'm saying? But when you're young, you know what I'm saying, and you have so many years and decades for your money to truly, truly grow, it's like, you're straight. Buy something and just hold it. You know what I'm saying? Don't buy anything stupid. You know what I'm saying? I don't suggest buying at a high, but like, you know, it's not, you know. And another thing too I want to touch on was like the idea of inflation. You know, like for those that might be scared to invest, like I said, I get it. I've been there before. But you got to think on the reverse. If you don't invest your money, it's losing its value. You can keep it in the savings and the checkout all you want, get you, you know, 0.00001%. But at some point, you're going to have to invest your money in some. And, you know, me personally, I never say like it has to be the stock market, right? You invest your money, whatever you want. But the key is to learn how to do it and do it, right? And invest it. Like banks are not give you, you know what I'm saying, these crazy ass percentages and returns on your investment. We're literally in a situation where you don't have a choice but to invest. You feel me? Like, it's, you know, people have just been put in tough situations. Like I said, I get it. Someone might be a little hesitant, but you really don't have, I guess, any other option. Again, no pun intended, but to invest your money. Yeah. I mean, so when we talk about, you know, long term, and again, for the record, I should have said this in the beginning, this is not financial advice. I'm getting ready to say, for educational purpose only. All right.
That's it. Do your own work.
You what are some things that you might look into / not necessarily a specific stock that you would buy, but something that you might tell someone like, all right, here's a reason why this might be a good buy, or here's something that you might want to look into?
Just as far as industries, I mean, I would say that, you know, a good place to start, well, even before we go to industries, this is something that you and I always talk about. Think about the things that you use, right? Think about the things that you wear. I have on a Nike hat and a Nike hoodie right now, and I have an Apple Watch and I got a phone. Like those are two companies right there. And I got AirPods in. Like those are two companies right there whose products I own. I should have their stock. Like Like that's just a very, very basic way to start, right? Is thinking about the things that you use on a daily basis, on a whatever you want to call the frequency. If you have a phone, whether it's Google, Samsung, whatever it is, Apple, you should look into it. You know, if you're wearing Nike like myself, like I love Nike. That's my. I mean, I think that Nike, if you're watching, hit the DM. I think by this point, I need a sponsorship. The car you drive. Think about the car that you drive. All of these different things. That's a very basic way for you to start. It's just by identifying the products that you use, regularly. That's a very, very basic way to start. And then, if you want to go a little further than that, you start talking about industries. From there, you kind of have to look at the world and the direction that it's going, especially our country, more directly. So, technology is huge. Energy is huge. Look at some of the things that, our president is talking about that he wants to push forward. Look at some of the legislation. Marijuana is being legalized all over the country. Like these are different industries that you can get into. And it's really based off of where our country is going, the direction that our country is going and what our country values. And so those are two really basic ways, one more than the other, to start.
Think of things that you already use. Right? You hit it right on the nail, bro. Like the idea of being a consumer versus an investor, or a consumer and an investor. That's nothing too. Like I see a lot of people talking about, like, you'll buy, Nike gear, but you won't buy Nike stock. I promise you, ladies and gentlemen, you can do both. I promise you.
You can do both.
Like I promise you.
The funny thing is,
your
stock can pay for whatever you buy.
Like, please.
That's the other part. Like your stock can pay for what you have, especially if you've already gotten a return. Like if Saturday's coming up, I'm sure there's a pair of J's that are dropping. I haven't really bought a pair in a while, so I'm not really too in the know of what's going on as far as release dates. But if I've already gotten a $200 return on my position in Nike, I can take that $200 out and still have my initial investment in, and take that $200 and go buy those shoes. Did I pay for those shoes? No, Nike paid me to buy those shoes.
Cut the check. But
on top of that, because I bought those shoes, I'm now impacting their sales. Because I'm impacting their sales, I'm now going to impact their quarterly report. Because I'm impacting their quarterly report, I'm now going to impact the movement of that stock price.
Yeah.
And Nike did it for me because I sold one seed and bought a share.
The thing with that, though, I want to touch on too is the order in which you bought the shoes, right? So obviously you needed money to invest in Nike. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So at the time, if someone had, let's say, $300 or whatever, you make that decision. All right, am I going to invest in Nike or buy a pair of Jordans? Which one am I doing first? Again, not saying you can't do both. Which am I going to do first? Invest first. And then once you get that profit, then, all right, ball out. Then you're going to get the Jordans, whatever. Yep. But it's the order in which you put your money into something. A lot of people, I feel like just, they get their money and like, all right, let's go buy something stupid that's not going to bring me any money.
Right.
I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not telling anyone to put their money in. But
buy whatever you want.
It is you do what you want. But there's another option out there that allows you, hear me, to invest, you feel me, collect your coins, and then proceed to buy, go to the mall and splurge or whatever. Put your money in stocks, put your money in real estate, whatever you want. And then once you get those profits, slide. Feel me? Then flex. Like the order of the game, man, is, I feel like sometimes
the order is important. The order is very important. And then the other part is don't God forbid we find a stock that pays some dividends.
Woo! You know what though, man? I want to have a conversation on dividends real quick. And I mean, you touched on it earlier, how important it is, to pass it on in dividends. I'm not going to say they're overrated. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to come on here and say that dividends are overrated. That's not what I'm going to do.
You absolutely can.
But dividends are rated.
Absolutely can.
Dividends
they are.
They're important. Now, I'll make this very clear too, all right? Because, some people get confused. Just because I'm saying that dividends are overrated does not mean that I'm saying that dividends aren't good, okay?
Right.
Free money is always a vibe, always.
Right.
I don't care what the situation is. If you are getting paid to do nothing, that is a vibe, all right? But I hear so many people, I mean, I guess specifically young people talking about, oh, I need to find dividend stocks. My mentality, bro, is like, if you are extremely young, you feel me, and you don't have like kids or like your financial situation isn't jacked, maybe dividend stocks shouldn't be at the top of your list in terms of priority level, right? Growth to me is like, all right, I can afford to take some risk. I don't need to play it safe and just, all right, I need passive income right now. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're closer to retirement, then it's like, all right, you know, I got time to be risking and hoping. It's not a guaranteed check. You feel me? But again, everybody different, you know. But
yeah, I mean, I
very,
would
very
just say
clear
that
though, dividends are not bad.
no, not at all. I mean, it's a great thing. Like you said, anytime you get free money, you know, it's a great thing. My perspective as far as them being, you know, overrated in a sense is that you have to have a substantial amount of shares for that dividend check to really like be a substantial figure. You know what I mean? Like, let's take Apple for example. Apple, I think their stock price right now is at, let's say 250. I think somewhere around there, give or take. The dividend the dividend ratio is only going to be like it's. I mean, even if you get 10%, I mean that's like phenomenal.
Yeah.
You know, like that's almost a bit unheard of. You know, so you're taking, let's just call it 5%. Let's just use whole numbers, and I'll put it. If you take 5% of a $250 stock price, I mean that's $12. I mean, like you're in a great space, but that's if you have one share. Like that's $12.50 or whatever per one share. We said that it's $250 per share. So for you to get something substantial, you have to have a substantial amount of shares. Yeah. And again, I'm not trying to downplay dividend stocks at all. If you got it, go with it. But just understand that it's not, you know, so cut and dry, so easy, you know, to get into it. So that's the only part that I would say.
And so I guess I apologize on this. I probably should have explained what dividends are, I guess, from a beginner standpoint. For those of you that may not know what dividends are, basically, in a basic definition, is when a company pays you for owning shares in them. All right, like there's a little bit more to it, but in like a one sentence headline, when a company pays you for having shares in that company, right? The more shares you have, the more they'll pay you. Now, usually it ain't much, you know, like you mentioned, you know, the more money you'll have, you know what I'm saying, the bigger the check will be. But it is a great form of passive income, which we both, you know, acknowledge. But to anyone that isn't familiar with dividends, that's how you kind of accumulate them. And you can always reinvest them, right? So if you get like let's say a $10 check through dividends, you can always reinvest them back into that same company or what have you. And they're paid out different times, right? Some are quarterly. But dividends, like I said, are definitely something that I would highly suggest people of all ages at least look into, of course. But when I hear people like brag about like, I got this, in terms of dividends, definitely congratulations. But I just hope the portfolio is in heavy, because
I mean,
there are other ways to put your money in.
I mean, you got to have a substantial amount of shares, right? For one, you got to know when they pay out, right? That's the other thing. I mean, you don't want to get a yearly dividend check, an annual dividend check like that. All right, cool.
Yeah.
So monthly, quarterly is good, obviously. And you got, I mean, the yield has to be good. So the dividend yield has to be strong, and that's the percentage of the stock price that they'll pay you. So, I mean, if the stock price is $150 and the dividend yield is only 1%, I mean, you got a lot of work to do, to be able to get a nice little piece of money. So
and I mean, like we said, that whether however you feel towards dividends, it should never be the 100% factor as to why you invest into something. And also too, I mean, I want to say this for another episode, but as long as you are investing into that company, right, and you have it before the specific date, you'll receive dividends. I don't want anyone to think that like, all right, you need to have X amount. Like there's something called fractional shares, which again, I'll save for another point in time. But the idea of like, if you have money with them, you'll receive that dividend. Again, if you have it by that specific time. And I mean, just like everything, you can always sell it, whenever you want and all that. But That's just important for people to kind of know. DRIP is another term for those of you that know, dividend reinvestment plan or program, right? The idea of just reinvesting, like I mentioned before, those dividends. But to me, like I said, man, your age and your overall situation is extremely important. So even with that though, how important for you would you say like your situation plays a factor when it comes to investing or trading in a specific stock or company?
Yeah, very much. It's all about when and how much you need, Um, so it really depends on where you are. But I think that's, for me, that's always going to be my driving factor. Is where I am, and what's going on in my life. If I'm at a good space, or not even a good space, or bad space, whatever. But if I'm in a place where I need more, I need to build my capital more right now and at a quicker pace, then I'm going to trade, because I know that I can see something on a week by week basis. And that, who knows what that return could be. If I'm at a position where I don't really need to build my capital, then I'm going to invest. Or if I'm in a position where I need to really be mindful of what I'm spending, then I'm probably not going to trade, because there's always, there's always the potential that it could go, the opposite way, and you could lose money. So, you just got to be mindful of your situation and always of what your objective is.
Facts. I hear you. And so on this call, we discussed a good amount of things, like in terms of a wide range of topics, generational wealth, dividends, the idea of passing along education, which I can't stress that enough. Again, because of the fact that it is free. Like, again, I think so many times people might be scared or hesitant to invest their money because they work for it, right? It is theirs. I'm not going to be confused by someone that says, I don't want to invest. But sharing education is free, right? But one question that I have for you as we wrap up, the last question I always ask is, what do you want to be remembered for? When it's all said and done, what do you want your last name? What do you want your name to be remembered for?
I want to be remembered as a selfless person, someone that gave, someone that would, do for others, just someone that meant something to the people that, he was around, and it doesn't have to be, the entire state, the entire world. And it doesn't really matter about the quantity, as much as the quality of the impact that I leave. And so, that's really what it's about. I want to be someone that, people enjoy being around, and people, as a person that, people have learned something from, regardless of, the size of the lesson or what have you, just to be able to help, and that's what we're all here for, is to reach back or reach up or whatever, and help someone. That's really what it's all about, and so, if I see $1 billion, if I see $2, it's about, who I was able to help, how I was able to help them, and that's something that I've always, kind of lived by. I've been in education, I coach, and, so it's always about relationships. It's always about being able to help people, get them to wherever they want to go, accomplish whatever it is that they want to accomplish, if I have the tools, or the connections, or both, to be able to do so, then, I'm gonna do that. And so that's really what it's all about. We have to be for each other. So often, everyone's for self, and so, I get it. It's a difficult world that we live in. And if you don't make sure that, you and yours are okay, who will? But at the same time, you do have to look out for others, because it takes a village. And that's something that I really, really and truly believe, is that we can't do anything by ourselves, so we'll always need someone, to help us along the way. So we got to build that bridge, for others coming behind us, and, even for those that may be ahead of us. There's always something that we can learn, from someone else, or we can teach someone else. So it's very important that we help one another. And that's the biggest thing. We got to uplift one another.
Got to, bro. I couldn't agree with you more on that one, man. So, obviously the title of this is Define Your Legacy. What you just touched on has legacy written all over it. It's like what you can pass down, and just the idea of like what you'll actually be remembered for, and just sharing that education, sharing that knowledge is extremely, extremely beneficial and needed, You know what I'm saying? Like,
Definitely.
just call it what it is, man. As Black people, like these are conversations that have to happen if we really want things to change. You
Absolutely.
know what I'm saying? But definitely appreciate you, you know what I'm saying, as a brother and as now a guest on Define Your Legacy. Do you have anything else, I guess, that you want to say to the people in terms of just either promo, your socials, or just where they can find you, whatever? I mean, you know me.
Nah, man, I'm, you
know.
Nah, bro. Just thank you for having me on here. You always have my full support. Just happy for you and all that you're doing, and proud of you. And any way that I can help, you already know I'm a phone call away. And just want to encourage, your following to listen to the things that you're saying, because I think it's very important that people understand that a lot of things that we've talked about, that you continue to talk about, are things that we're living currently. And I think that always has a deeper impact. It's easy to, be someone who's already at the top of the hill and is preaching down to the folks below or on the way up, But when you're amongst the folks that are still climbing, it has a strong impact, in my mind, because they're able to reach out, and be able to really understand, and really be able to connect to you and get to you and interact and engage with you, And so when you're still working and you're amongst other people that are still working, but you're trying to bring them along with you, that's a special quality, And so, for those that are following, just reach out, ask for help, ask questions. Don't be too proud or too ashamed to do so. Because we have someone in our community like yourself that's willing to help,
Nice.
Willing to guide and willing to bring along, and it's someone that's not, up that people put on a pedestal or as an influencer or whatever. It's like there's someone right here, that's willing to help. Nice. And so utilize all resources that you have, because it's a great one.
Nice. Thank you, man. That definitely means a lot, bro. Because, just understand this is all a process, and that this, it's just important. You know what I'm saying? Like me, you know me, I'll argue about anything with anyone. But this right here, like this has to happen, right? Like everything else, all right, if you don't want to do certain things or talk about certain things, but we have to have that dialogue. So just hopefully being a voice. If you are listening, you have any questions in any way that I can help, and that's the beauty of like, this show, this podcast too, is like, I want to help people, obviously, what I'm saying, provide value. And for those that are receiving this information that they may not have had before, but at the same time, I'm also in a position to learn, right? I'm also in a position of networking and continuing my education so that I'm able to pass that down. You know what I'm saying? Right. So definitely, an honor and privilege of having you pull up. It's definitely been a good episode, man. I already look forward to, the comments and reaction of everyone. We've been good friends and brothers for like we said in the beginning, decades now. So to have a solid conversation like this, which we always have, but the fact that it's been recorded and will live on forever, I'm saying? Legacy, forever.
Old and great.
Exactly. This conversation is going to be forever. Yep. So definitely appreciate you, my brother. Love you.
Love you too, bro. You already know that.
Appreciate that, man. With that being said, y'all, appreciate y'all for checking out Define Your Legacy. Y'all stay blessed. Peace.